This episode is brought to you by The Software Report, a leading information source on software companies and solutions. Today, we speak with Anis Bennaceur, co-founder and CEO of Attention, an AI-native sales platform that turns conversations into insights and automates CRM updates, follow-ups, and real-time coaching. Anis is a self-taught coder and product builder with experience leading growth at Tinder and running lean sales teams. He focuses on automation, data, and scalable tools that solve real-world problems for revenue organizations. Since its launch, Attention has scaled rapidly, approaching 8 figures in annual revenue. The platform helps sales teams automate workflows and capture insights with clients like Scale AI and BambooHR across tech and insurance sectors. I'm your host, RJ Lumba. We hope you enjoy the show. If you like the episode, click to follow.
RJ Lumba is the executive chairman of Market Insight Media and the managing partner of GrowthCap. He is the host of Great Entrepreneurs, a podcast for driven entrepreneurs and business owners. Our podcast covers all topics related to the entrepreneurial journey, from ideation to execution to optimization and to reaping the rewards of a well-run business. In the minutes ahead, we'll share with you unique insights and tactics from some of today's most accomplished and inspiring entrepreneurs.
Anis, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
Thank you. How's it going?
Good. So where I thought we'd kick off is the sales enablement space. So thinking about software broadly, the sector, sales enablement software has long been around. It takes different forms, whether it's a CRM system or other types of software that help inform the salesperson. You're taking it to the next level with your solution. So maybe to kick off, tell us about this next wave of sales enablement solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. So overall, just taking a step back, we do help with sales enablement, but we also, more importantly, help revenue operation teams. So sales ops and sales enablement, and also the sales team themselves. So in the past, pre-LLM, you had different types of platforms, some that were repository of knowledge bases, right? So your typical LMS system. Then you had data orchestrators, right? Platforms that could move some of the data from one place to another, or systems of action. So that was used by revenue operations. And then you had the last piece, which is typically for sales, the actual system of action. So you could think about your old school call recorders or email sending platforms like Outreach and so on. These tools in the past were very siloed. And what would happen is that sales enablement teams, for example, had to go into the LMS, input the information into the LMS, manually write the content, and make sure that reps are actually adopting the content, right? Learning from it and improving. On the data orchestrators, right? Like making sure that you could move, let's say, some data from one place to another. The limitations pre-LM were that you had all this unstructured data. You couldn't really restructure the data in the right format to move it to another place, right? So those were a lot of the limitations. And then the last piece was that the call recorders, more specifically, were just great at one thing, which is recording your call and transcribing it. But then if you wanted to get any sort of insights, you had to go read every single transcript and see what was being said, and then create your own reports. And so the way people would live back then is see what was happening in these conversations, create their own manual analysis, and then go out and build either manually input data into specific systems like the CRM, or build their knowledge bases in the LMS. Now, post LLM, and this was our kind of like pieces since day one, before the LLMs came out, were that, or before basically ChatGPT came out, but you still had GPT-3 at the time, was that you could restructure a lot of that unstructured data and push that data to the right person at the right place at the right time. So you're having a sales conversation, you're getting all of the latest objections. These objections are getting into your LMS, your sales enablement knowledge base, but also the next steps and insights about that deal would go into your CRM, right? Which has been the bane of the existence of every sales team. And so what Attention does here is we started out with one very simple wedge, which is what is happening in your sales deals and how do we use that information to go now orchestrate and move that data from your calls into your CRM. And over time now we grew as a fully agentic platform that could move all of the insights from multiple different places and give you really, really intelligent reports and alerts and analysis on what's happening in your revenue organization.
And are the insights then, it's a learning tool such that the event actually already happens, meaning the sales opportunity already passes, and then you're feeding back to that agent, here's how you can improve on that? Or is it real time, like you're actually having the conversation and you have this maybe screen up, which is kind of helping you respond to any objections?
Yeah, that's a great question. So today we offer both real time and post call. What we ended up actually realizing over time is that most teams will just favor post call because a lot of people just want to stay focused on their clients during these conversations. And we'll just kind of like iterate after the call. And then there's just kind of information overload when you're having a conversation so that you're getting a pop-up. And that pop-up in real time needs to be 100% accurate and net additive for you to be able to convert your opportunity. And it's way too hard to get the information absolutely right, also in a way that does not really derail the sales rep. And so we still have these capabilities, but in most cases, all of our users actually leverage the post-call capabilities.
And can you give us a sense for the scale of the business currently and which sectors maybe tend to gravitate towards your solution the most?
Yeah, we're getting to the 8-figure in ARR, and we have hundreds of clients today, including companies like Scale AI. I'm sure you heard of them in the news recently. BambooHR. We have a Bridge, one of the fastest growing businesses, an incredibly intelligent business. Engine.com. We have just so many clients at this point that happen, but those are some of our great logos.
Mainly tech companies, or is it across the board?
So I would say that today about 70% of our clients are tech companies. The remaining 30%, we have a lot of insurance companies, for example. We have a lot of other verticals, but you tend to see that the earliest adopters of these sorts of technologies start initially being tech companies, and then you kind of like expand into other sectors.
Mm-hmm. I imagine there's a number of competitors in the space. How would you describe the competitive landscape, and how would you differentiate attention from the others?
So first of all, I think it's important to kind of separate the types of competitors. You have the incumbents, right? The largest companies that are out there like Gong and so on that have been around for nearly a decade now. And then you have newer players, right? And so I think the way attention actually uniquely differentiates from everyone is that we're the only AI native startup that has the ability to do all of these three things at the same time. The first one is capturing customer interactions, which is almost a commodity today, right? Like how do you capture call recordings and emails with clients and so on. The second piece, I think, which is extremely important, is the insights engine. How do you build the right engine that builds the proper insights based on the types of personas, clients, prospects, whatever it is, in a unique way, right? And then the last piece is how do you orchestrate that data to the right people at the right place at the right time? And so that's the agentic piece. We are the only ones who are able to do this across 400 different platforms, whether it's CRMs, LMSs, communication tools like Slack or Teams, and so on. And we build the most powerful insights engine in the market, where a lot of the other players are just barely getting started on their insights engine, which typically tend to be kind of, I'll chat with my calls or I'll chat with my deal, but it's not really proactive in a way that the competition cannot elevate the risk to you or the problems or things, the unknown unknowns to you the way attention can.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious as to how you went about thinking about this particular solution and problem that you were solving. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started.
I can go way back actually. So growing up, I was a hacker, right? I taught myself how to code when I was 10 years old. I built a ton of different small pieces of software. I just kind of like had that mindset. I actually grew up in Europe and more specifically in France, where, going out from the top schools, the best thing that you would do back in 2011 was investment banking or consulting. So I went the IB route. So that kind of taught me to work 80, 100-hour weeks. Then I took a bet on a 6-month-old startup that was just starting to grow at the time. And that startup turned out to be Tinder, the dating app, right? So I was doing growth and marketing for them in France, then moved on to starting my first startup, which was called Mixer in 2015, professional network for creatives. So it's viewed as LinkedIn for the creative economy. We were a bit ahead of our time then, but we had one of the fastest growing professional networks of creative people connecting with one another. And on top of that, we would be selling subscriptions, B2B subscriptions to large enterprise firms like Capital One, Square, and so on. And so growing a sales team and actually bootstrapping it at my last startup made me aware of all the problems that we're solving today, such as, hey, how do we train reps? How do we accelerate ramp time? How do we get our CRM filled with the right data? All these things, because as a bootstrap business, you have to force yourself into being as lean as possible and being as automation heavy as possible. And so that really kind of made me, the best possible person to build the business that we're building today, which is how do you automate sending the right insights and eventually decreasing costs for businesses so that they can spend their time just doing what matters the most, which is talking to customers.
Hmm. So what was interesting when you were describing Mixer, and maybe I don't have this quite as accurate in my head, is that Mixer sounded like a platform for creatives to get to know each other, but then you were selling subscriptions to large corporations, I guess, to access the creatives
To post job
to post
job listings,
jobs.
right? Yeah. So similar to LinkedIn, right? Like you're connecting on LinkedIn with other people, which is kind of like your way to network. And then on top of that, now companies go on LinkedIn and pay to post job listings, right? And so that's how we were making our money.
And how different is it building a software company versus having a platform, building a network first, and then selling
Yeah.
that community to corporations?
So if we take a step back, I always kind of like transition from one company to the next using my current skill set and knowledge and like expanding my knowledge to other things. And so going from Tinder to Mixer, I knew how to grow a network with actual users. And from there, expanding to actual including B2B subscriptions is also kind of like a different sport. But in order to get as many users as possible early on from a consumer standpoint, you have to be really good at growth hacking. You have to look at product data. You have to iterate very fast with these cohorts of users in a data driven way. Whereas when you're going from a B2C to B2B motion, you have to talk a lot more to your users and maybe think a little less about the data, but more about the insights that you're getting from your customer conversations. And so growing a consumer platform made me an incredible growth hacker. But then also when I went to the B2B side of things and started selling and building a product for enterprise, my past background was extremely helpful into figuring out automations and hacks to maximize lead gen. And so I remember more specifically after summer 2020, GPT-3 had come out and I was already kind of building my own scripts that would feed public data into the GPT-3 API and try to write the first emails with AI at the time. And the emails were not exceptional, but they were actually exceptionally good for the time. And I would end up with 45% reply rates on my campaigns.
Phenomenal. So you're still kind of, I guess, in the earlier phase of the company, and so you have capital backing. Tell us a little bit about how you went about selecting your investors and what they bring to the table other than financial capital.
So for me, it's just vibes, right? How do you vibe with a partner? I pick a partner of a firm and I see how I click. And when a VC actually asks me how I think about it, I give them the exact same response. And if they ask me to explain what vibes are, I think they already lost, right? Those are things that you don't need to explain. The next thing is obviously once you have really good intuition and a feeling about someone, and you get that obviously that signal through the questions that they ask you, right? And so on. I think from there, you should definitely do your due diligence and try to talk to not only the founders that they connect you with, but also the founders that have not been successful with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the second thing. So are they going to be there for your highs as much as your lows? And then the last piece is just, are they gonna work really hard for you? Are they going to deliver on the introductions that you ask for?
Mm-hmm. We're entering into the tail end. Two final questions. One is, can you tell us about a person who has had a profound influence on you?
I would say it really depends on what we're talking about. If it comes down to building a business, I'd say Paul Graham is definitely right out there, right? Like not only, incredibly smart and thoughtful about all the things he's writing, but also the generosity of distributing that knowledge to people and sharing what was initially reserved for an elite of founders that were in the Bay Area to now giving back content and spreading that knowledge across the world is incredible. And that just allows you to go from a wealth concentration in the Silicon Valley to kind of distribute and expand that knowledge across the world now.
Mm-hmm. Last question. Can you tell us about a charity cause or other endeavor that you're passionate about?
My own business.
That's a good answer. Well, Anis, thank you so much for taking the time. This has been a wonderful conversation.
Thank you. All right, take care.